Okay, we have a fantastic audience out there, so let's get started. Thank you for joining us today for this informative webinar on our courseware. My name is Don Yaochang, and I'm the FlexEd Solutions Manager at XanEdu. We are delighted to introduce you to a new option for instructors who want to use OER in tandem with technology in their courses. That new option is called XanEdu FlexEd. Before we get started, every good webinar starts with a stat. A survey by Bayview Analytics of 826 faculty about the emergency digital shift to remote learning in the spring showed that 44% of faculty surveyed wanted guidance regarding technology options to support their course, and 30% wanted one-on-one consultations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are happy and proud to be your guide, your consultants in that endeavor. As we begin, let's cover some procedural information. The webinar today will take about 45 minutes. We will reserve the last 10 minutes for your questions. Everyone will be on mute during the presentation. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the question feature, type in your question, and we will answer it during Q&A. If any questions are not covered, we will follow up with you individually after the webinar. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded. We will share a link with you in the coming days. Please feel free to share that link with your colleagues. Let's get started with a little bit of background information on XanEdu and FlexEd. Here at XanEdu, we work with educators to make learning more relevant, accessible, and affordable. We're a trusted campus partner working with more than 1,800 education institutions. Chances are we're already on your campus. We do custom course materials, and we believe that educators should design materials around a course rather than designing their course around off-the-shelf textbooks. Lastly, we help lower the cost of education through the use of those custom course materials and also through our preferred partnership with OpenStax, utilizing OER content in very creative ways. A little bit about FlexEd before we get started. FlexEd is an adaptive courseware delivery platform. For students, that means engaging, easy-to-use video-first experience. Surveying shows that when they are lost, students turn to video first. Interestingly enough, the textbook ranks 6th. For instructors, XanEdu FlexEd is a complete course in a box with tools to help identify and assist struggling students. On top of all that, FlexEd is modular, editable, and supported. It can be customized as little or as much as you prefer, and we have dedicated service and support to help. Even though it's new, FlexEd is proven. Dr. Lily Arias at Tougaloo College used this platform for her biology course. Her goal was to increase engagement for that online biology class. She tried unsuccessfully many tools to try to improve the design and content of that online class. She was finally successful when she utilized this platform. It led to an increase in engagement. It also led to her being awarded a Digital Learning Innovation Award in 2016. On top of that biology course, let's take a look at our course catalog. We currently have 9 titles ready to go, with many, many more on the way. With that information covered, it's time to dive into this amazing courseware. I'd like to introduce you to a very special guest, Derek Wessler. Derek is a co-founder and chief customer officer of this platform, and he's going to give you your first look at FlexEd. Take it away, Derek.
Don, thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. If not, there's nothing going on. If you throw something in the chat, that would be great. I'm going to demo for you the courseware. I'm going to walk through this first as a student would walk through this, so you can get a sense of the flow and the materials that are provided. We'll then walk through some of the instructor tools that we provide for you to make your life easier as an instructor. And we'll also talk about some of the customization features that are available to you. As we go through this, keep in mind some of the design philosophies or some of the things that we try to solve with our platform. The first and foremost is course completion. So everything we do, we look at how are we better able to get students through the course material successfully. The ways we do that, and we think about this, is first and foremost, how do we actually make this easy? How do we make it simple for students, simple to access the material, simple to access the right material at the right time? And then when we think about you, the instructors, how do we actually give you the tools to best help your students? How do we take away some of the tasks that are low value, sifting through data? And how do we give you the tools where it's very easy for you to give things to students to help them? So with that, let's jump in. So on my screen, some of you can probably recognize this. This is Canvas. And when we think about ease of use, and we talk to students about ease of use, one of the first things they talk about is it's just hard to access the stuff. I may have multiple apps, I may have multiple logins, I don't even know where to find my stuff. We provide single sign-on. So in Canvas, and this would look the same in Blackboard or Moodle or Sakai or any LTI compliant LMS, I have single sign-on. What that means is I am in Professor Yao Chang's course here. I click on my single sign-on link, and I am in my course. So what just happened very quickly behind the scenes is that I was signed into FlexEd. If I didn't have an account, it would create one for me. And I was signed specifically into Professor Yao Chang's course, as you can see here. In terms of how our courseware is delivered, each of you will get your own instance of a particular course. And in this particular demo, we're going to walk through sociology. I will also show a little bit of the psychology course. You're given your own course. You can edit this course as you like. So your students from your particular section will be enrolled here. You can edit the order of things. You can edit the labels on things. You could add your own content. You can remove content. You have control of all of the assignments and assessments in the course. So in terms of due dates, open dates, close dates, what is going to be graded, what is going to be practiced. All of those things are available to you to take this course and make it your own. When you think about doing that, if I look at Professor Yao Chang's course here, you'll notice that I have an awful lot of lessons. So the course comes complete with all of the lessons that are in the OpenStax text. For sociology, that is, you'll see here 21 lessons. For psychology, I believe it's 16 lessons. And for the psych instructors on the course, I know some of you like taking the sex and sexuality lesson from sociology and adding it to your psychology course. And if that's something that you wanted to do, that's very, very simple to do. We also know that most sociology instructors don't teach all 21 chapters. So if you wanted to reorganize this or take out chapters, very, very simple to do. And I will show you how we can customize this and how you can customize this. So as I scroll down, you may first notice my progress bars here. Each lesson is comprised of learning objectives and content. And my status bars here, my progress bars, are going to show me how well I'm doing in each particular lesson. So you'll see that I've done pretty well in my first two lessons on Introduction to Sociology and Sociological Research. And this is my current lesson here on culture. And I've gone through this once and I haven't done particularly well. And you'll see that when I click on these, I'm actually shown the individual learning objectives or sections within this particular lesson. And I can see how I've done. What we're doing here is we're trying to use the interface to make things as simple as possible for students. So when they log in, it becomes very, very clear how well they've done and then where they need to do more work. So if I log in here, it becomes very clear that I've done well here and I need to do a little bit more work on culture. So we're trying to use the interface as much as possible to keep students focused and get them doing the work they need to do. In terms of the lesson layout, I'm going to click in here to society and social interaction. The lesson layouts across all of the lessons within sociology and across all of the lessons within all of the courses follow a very similar structure and format. So for those sociology instructors, this will make perfect sense. If you're a psych instructor or an econ instructor or a history instructor, the flow and lessons will look exactly the same. And when you request access to a course to have a look, you'll notice that. So we begin with a short introduction for each lesson. And then what we do is we are going to be breaking down the lesson into the learning objectives. And in this case, for this particular lesson, there are three: types of societies, theoretical perspectives on society, and social constructions of reality. These match one-to-one to the textbook, so there's a very nice, simple alignment. And what we do is we use video and short text to introduce each one of these learning objectives. And I will click through all these pages so you can get a sense of what they look like. And the goal there is a quick and easy introduction to the material. So students will click through all of the learning objectives, and then they will move to the text reading. And the goal there is you're going to get to the text reading having some knowledge of what's being covered. You may have been read in your video some of the terms, you may have been introduced to some of the concepts. So the text reading is not the first time you're encountering what is essentially new and complex material. And that's designed to help students remember and help students master. The lesson is designed in a learn, practice, assess flow. So this is the learning material through the textbook. We then have a number of practice activities that become available to students, and then a number of assessments or evaluative lessons, a discussion board, a homework section, your lecture slide that you can use, and a lesson assessment. All of these are provided to you, the instructor, as a complete course. So you can use all of these if you like. We have many instructors that take this material and simply deliver it as is. They include the discussions and the homework and the slides just as is. Others say, you know what, I actually don't want to include the homework. I'm happy only using a lesson assessment. So they can remove the homework assignment entirely. Or they may reorder things, remove things. But the goal here is to give you, the instructor, the wealth of material that comes with this textbook package and allow you to assign it and deliver it very, very simply. We don't want you to have to spend time building discussion boards or building lecture slides or writing assessments. Everything should be simple and delivered for you in a way where it is cohesive and all aligned to the material. So if I click through some of my lessons. So my first lesson here is on types of society. And this is an introductory page. And we introduce this material almost always with video. And we do that because that's what students actually like. When we went out and we interviewed students as we were designing the platform, students told us, yeah, I usually start with videos. And even if they're only given a textbook, they'll still start with videos by going to YouTube or going to some other source. So we have had subject matter experts go through YouTube, essentially, find videos that align well to the text, find videos that are appropriate for college level learning, and find videos that accurately portray these concepts. And we present them in frame here. So in this case, I have a video on types of societies, and I have a video on society and social interaction. The videos will play right here. I'm going to pause this video. A couple things you'll note, this video is 3 minutes. So we also know that students are not going to watch a 22-minute video. So we've selected videos that are relevant, accurate, and something that students will watch. You'll also notice that I flipped on my subtitles. All of our videos are captioned. All of our audio files are captioned. Our platform is WCAG 2.0 compliant. So it's ADA accessible, it's ADA compliant. It can work with screen readers, it can work with any sort of device. So if you use this on a phone, things will reflow. If you use this on a tablet, everything will reflow. You don't end up with having to squeeze things. It is entirely HTML5 responsive design, so it works on any platform that you like. We're also providing, you'll notice, in addition to the videos, we're providing some text. And this is by design. So what we're trying to do is give students audio and video here about the concept, and then something for them to read. So students are multitaskers. While they're watching this video, they're also going to be reading some of this. And again, this notion of repeating the same information to students multiple times in multiple modalities is a tried and true way to get students to master material and remember material. So they're going to hear it and see it here. They're going to read it here, And then when they get to the text reading, they will see it again. That'll be the third time. So we're trying to layer this for students, get them engaged, and get them moving through the material. The other thing I'm going to talk about on this page are some of the additional materials and additional features that we provide to students. As we were building this platform, we spent a lot of time watching students study, talking to students about how they study and how they learn, and identifying some of the roadblocks or some of the problems that students encounter. The first thing is, I've gone through some of this, and I just don't really understand it. So we provide, on each page, additional materials. The additional materials change page to page. So as I navigate through this, my materials here are going to change. The materials that students get, it could be a text reading. So this is a deeper view on what I've read or what I've watched here. I may get key terms. So the key terms specific to this learning objective. So if I miss something, I can go here. I also get practice quizzes. And this changes lesson to lesson. Occasionally there are additional videos or additional resources. It depends on what our subject matter experts have identified and what they think will help students. But if a student gets stuck, what we're trying to avoid is them going to YouTube, them going to Google. We want to provide materials that make it easy when they get stuck. Additionally, if a student has a technical issue, they can pop open their assist button right here. The assist button has self-service. So if you say, you know what, I don't know where my grades are, you can search and you'll see that there are articles that will come up. And I can click on these articles. You can also message our help center right here, and this will open a live chat window. We know that you are not experts in technology, and especially our technology. You shouldn't be, you don't have to be. So if a student has a particular issue, they can't find something or something's not loading correctly, they have access to us, and they have access to us all the time. So we don't want students to get stuck and not be able to learn. Students have a messaging function. So you'll see here, I can text message my professor, my instructor right here. And I can do that through text. And I can send my instructor a note, or I can do a video chat with my instructor. So I can click open a video window and I can do a one-on-one chat with my instructor. I have a notes panel. And you'll notice that I have taken some notes here. My notes, just like the additional materials, do change page to page. So as we think about study skills and the study skill behaviors that we want students to use, one of them is note taking. So if I've watched something here and then I've read something here and then I've taken a note on that, it just makes it far more likely that I'm going to remember that concept and master that concept. I have a calendar, so my checklist on what needs to be done. This updates automatically when you, the instructor, set all of your assignments. So this is very much the to-do list. I'm sure all of you have students saying, gee, I didn't know it was due, or I didn't know what I needed to do. Well, this is the checklist. So they'll come through, they'll see what they have due, and they can click on any of these things to be taken to that, whatever it is that they need to be doing for the course. There's search functionality. There's a glossary that includes all key terms. This is for the entire course, so if they come across a term they don't know, they can search for that. And finally, there is also professor video meetings. And I'll pop this open, and what you can see here is this is essentially online office hours. Oh, it's not loading because of my video is already on. Let's see if I can join this meeting. So online office hours. So if you are an instructor and strangely you're all of a sudden forced to go online and you're not seeing your students face to face, all you need to do to see your students is come in here, open that instructor video meeting. Your students can do the same, and they will also pop up on this video right here. So it's a very simple way for you as the instructor. You can do this from home, you can do this from your office, and you can reach your students anytime, anywhere to help them with specific concepts. This is instructor to multiple students. So if this was kind of like an online office hours where you might be explaining a difficult topic, you can get 3, 4, 5 students in here, whatever you like, and have that conversation just like you might with Zoom. So all of those features designed to get students to pass the course, designed to keep students in the courseware. When they run into trouble, which they invariably will, we want to make sure that they have some place to go in the courseware that will help them. When they're ready to move on, they have a number of ways to navigate. So they can navigate using the next or back buttons here. As students are going through the material the first time, that's typically what we see is they're going to go through this in a linear fashion. Once they've gone through the material a few times, they may use these breadcrumb buttons. So here I can navigate directly to any page within my lesson. So this lesson on society and social interaction, I can navigate around. Or finally, I can open up my menu and you'll see that here I can actually navigate to any page within the course. You'll see that I just click through, and in this case, I have a very similar page. This one's on the theoretical perspectives of society, and in this case, a slightly different layout where I'm going to be able to click through and see a couple of these different videos that are going to introduce me to this topic. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump ahead to the textbook, and I'm going to do that by clicking on my breadcrumbs up here. And here I have my textbook. This is the OpenStax textbook. Very high quality, great textbook. Not only is it really high quality, the beauty of the OpenStax textbook and OER is that it allows us a ton of flexibility. And how that manifests itself is I can put in just chapter 4 here. So from a student's perspective, I don't need to now open up an ebook app and figure out what chapter I'm on and navigate around. All I need to do is click to this page, and what I need is shown to me right here. Secondly, it's delivered as a PDF. I can read my PDF here on screen, or I can simply click this button and download the chapter of a PDF. I can read it on the bus, I can read it at home, I can do whatever I like. The PDFs are available for the individual chapters. We also allow for a complete download of the PDF textbook. So if a student wanted to download the entire thing, they're free to do that as well. All of that is included with the courseware. There's no extra fee for that. It's all included, very affordable and very flexible and very simple for students. As I continue to move through my course, so I have some practice activities. In this case, I have flashcards and a practice quiz, and you'll notice that I can click through my cards here. Right, so we're giving students things in a very simple way. It's sequenced. They don't have to go someplace else to find them. If we make it easy for them to find, they're far more likely to use it than if there's something they had to go search the internet for or go back to Canvas for or look for. It makes it very, very simple. Flashcards and a practice quiz. And here you're seeing for the first time our assessment engine. We use assessment in a number of different ways. Here we're using assessment for very much of low stakes learning. This is not assessment for evaluation perspective. This is assessment for learning. So I can immediately, I don't even need to submit this assessment. I can go through the questions and I can check my answers. And I can do that on all of these questions. And I can go through, and this one I happen to get right. This is here for students to self-evaluate. What do I know? What don't I know? If I don't know it, I can continue to click questions to figure out what the correct answer is. And am I ready to actually move on, or do I want to go back? So it's very much giving students the ability to evaluate their own learning. As I continue through discussion boards, so we have built out discussion boards. They are discussion boards that are always paired with a media element. So it's not only a discussion prompt that's text, it's usually prompting students to watch something. In this case, this is Amy Cuddy from Harvard University around body shapes and body language. I'm sure all of you sociology professors are quite familiar with this. And the question that is built around this, which prompts students to actually join the discussion here. So you'll see I can simply type into the discussion, and that's joined here. Now the discussion boards, some of you may like them, some of you may not. Some of you may want to change them, totally fine. You can keep the media element and change the prompts. You can completely put in your own discussions. Anything you like is entirely customizable here. The discussion boards can be practice or can be graded, so you can add points to them if you'd like. We also have a feature here where if you want to force students to make a post before they can see the long list of other posts, you can set that as a parameter as well. And I know we hear this from instructors a lot, that once there's 3 or 4 posts about something, they all start to look the same, and it becomes pretty clear that students are just reading the other posts and summarizing. So you do have that feature where you can force a student to make a post before they actually see the long list of posts. Homework assignments, pre-assigned as well. So in this case, we have some short answer, and students would go through and type in their answers here. Those would be submitted to you, the instructor. As the instructor, you can provide feedback to students here, written feedback, audio feedback, so you can actually record an audio file back to students that would be presented to them based off of their answer. A nice feature if you're online and may not be seeing your students face-to-face, a way to actually get a live connection to students. So you can assign those homework assignments. And again, if it's something you don't want to do, you can simply remove that page. Your lecture slides provided to you. You can take these slides as is. You can edit these slides. You can take your own slides and upload. So if you said, I don't want to use these at all, absolutely fine to do. But they are presented here for students. Students can click through these. You'll also notice that students can download these right here. So that beginning of the semester where it's, oh, I've got to load all this stuff to Canvas, I've got to get all of these files and this material to students, all of that is done here. So it simplifies that day one getting students up to speed. And finally, my lesson assessment. This is the lesson assessment at the end of this particular chapter. You'll notice that this one is set where I can submit it 3 times. You have control over the assessments. You can control the number of times students submit. You can control open dates, due dates, close dates. You can accept late work or not if you want to. You can control when students see feedback. So if you had something like a midterm where you didn't want students to ever see feedback, you can set that. Or if you wanted to see students to see feedback immediately, that's available as well. For our high stakes assessments, we always begin with a metacognitive question. How confident are you in the material? And that feeds our adaptive algorithms. Scoring 9 out of 10 if you're very confident versus scoring 9 out of 10 if you're not confident at all means something very different, and we do accommodate for that. So you're going to answer that question, and then you're going to go through your assessment. You'll answer those questions here, and these questions are all tied to those 3 learning objectives that we have in this particular lesson. I will jump to the end here, and I'm going to submit my assessment. And you'll see that I've not done very well at all. Scored 1 out of 20. So as a student, what do I do now? So now I open my study center. And what you will notice is that I have a number of pages here in my study center. My study center is now populated with pages from previous lessons. So if you recall, I did not do particularly well on my culture lesson. And I also did not do well on my societies lesson. And you'll see that I have these pages here. These are in my study center. The system is telling me as a student, you need to go back to these pages and you need to remaster this material. You have not yet mastered it. But it is up to you, the student, to take control of your learning and to go ahead and manage this. So for me as a student, I am going to go back and I'm going to say, I am going to go back to types of societies. And you will notice it takes me back to the same page. And we do that intentionally. We want this to be a relatively familiar experience because sometimes students go through this and they don't know the material because it's just too hard. Sometimes they don't know it because their children came home when they were going through it, or the bus got to wherever they were going and they had to move away. So we want it to be familiar, give them a chance to review the material, again, the same material. They can also bring up the text material. So here is the textbook chapter specifically for this subsection. They can take a practice quiz once they've gone through the material and say, am I ready to actually go through? Right, I'm still getting things wrong. Am I ready to reevaluate or am I not? They can go back through their notes, right? If you recall, my notes are page specific. So we're making this as simple as possible as we can and trying to keep things as familiar as we can for students to get through and master the material. And then when they are ready, they can open their study center and they can reevaluate. So I'm going to go through here and I have some questions that are shown to me and I'll go through. And depending on how well I do, I did not do very well, this will now stay in my study center and it will stay in my study center until I've actually mastered this particular learning objective. In terms of our adaptive flow, we very much believe in keeping the student in charge of their learning experience. We find that and the research finds that it is really empowering, and that if we're just showing students things, watch this video, answer this question, do this, do that, it's really not helpful. Empowering them to take control of this journey is really what we want to do. And it's really motivating to them. So they can go through and they have this checklist that they're trying to work through and trying to actually master. So in terms of Instructor Resources, I'm now going to move to a different page, and I'm going to show you some of the gradebook features and some of the insights that we provide to you, the instructor. So, excuse me, let me go back to my gradebook. So the first thing, obviously there's a gradebook. And in your gradebook, all of the scores that you set as graded are going to show up. So you're going to get your students enrolled, you're going to be able to see your gradebook. You will notice here I've got a number of flags. These were assignments that were submitted late. They're showing a 0, and you as the instructor have the ability to accept them or not. So we're trying to allow you a very simple way to go through and manage your students. They can still submit late. We don't necessarily want to lock them out unless you choose to. And you can go through and you can accept late work. You also have an Insight Center. And I'm not going to click through everything here because there's a wealth of material in terms of student scores and how students are scoring on specific things and where students are spending their time. What I'm going to do is go through 3 particular things. The first is the learning gauge. And the question we get from instructors is, how well are my students doing and what % are on track to pass the course? Well, you can see that right here. We're breaking down the students into their cut scores. So I've got 90 to 100, 80 to 89, and I can very quickly see but I've got a number of students here that need help. And if I click on this, everything in here is clickable. I will see all of my students, and I have data here for Enrico Ferme. I can actually click in, and you can now deep dive onto any of your students. And if I take a very quick look here at Mr. Ferme, I can see that he's actually scoring very well, scoring 97% versus a class average of 72. He's spending a lot less time in the material. He's only spending 42 minutes compared to a class average of 2 hours 30. And I can even deep dive lesson by lesson. And I can see that his progression is pretty good lesson to lesson, whereas the class may have fallen off a little bit. So it allows you this ability to deep dive into a student if you want to have a look, or if a student comes to you and talks to you about what they've been doing, you can very quickly get a sense for how they're doing and how much time they're actually spending. The actionable piece of this. So we're also going to break down those students into our engagement dial here, our engagement tracker. And students are going to be broken down into 3 cohorts. The first is on track, you're meeting the cut score. If you are off track, not meeting the cut score, you are either going to be struggling or disengaged. Struggling students are spending time with the material, but not doing well, whereas disengaged students are simply not engaged in the material. And I can open up my window here, and I can see those cohorts. I can email them, they'll all be BCC'd. I can invite them to office hours, I can do what I need. And we know, talking to instructors just like you, that struggling students, the students that are putting in the effort, are students that you will reach out to. You will do whatever you can to get them to pass the course, whereas disengaged students get a very different message. The last thing I want to show you on this page is the alerts here. And I'm going to click on those so you can open those up. Behind the scenes, we have an early alert system, if you will. It's really much more than an early alert system, but that's how it's portrayed in the market. What we're doing is we are crunching all of the data that exists about your students, how much time they're spending, how much time they're spending week to week, and whether it's increasing or decreasing, how they're scoring. And we are sending your students one message every week. That message is reaching them via email and via SMS, or sending this to their phones. The messages change week to week and are tailored specifically to their performance. So a student that's doing very well is going to get a very positive message. Keep up the good work. A student that is struggling might get a message about improving their study skills. So something like, hey, you may want to try to take notes, or you may want to reach out to a classmate, or you may want to reach out to your instructor. A disengaged student is going to get a message about logging in. It's simply about getting in and engaging with the material more frequently. And reaching students on their phones when they're not in the course, so when they're at work or when they're someplace else, is a great way to remind them to come back into the application and to come back into the courseware and get back in with the material. The final thing I'm going to show you before we take questions is just a little bit of the customization. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. The only thing I'm going to show you, I'm flipped over here onto a psychology course. One of the things you may have noticed here is that I've actually changed the titles here. So instead of just intro to psych, I put in week 1, week 2, week 3. We see a lot of instructors do this, week 1, week 2, week 3. We see a lot of instructors even put dates, September 1st, September 8th, September 15th, using the interface as a way to keep students very organized. All of these things are customizable. So you can change the names, you can change images, you can reorder things as you like. In the psych book, biopsychology is actually chapter 3, as you can see here, and I've reordered these. The other thing you can do in terms of reordering is, if you recall, in the SOCH demo that we went through, slides, the in-class presentation, was at the very end of the lesson. If you're a teacher that says, you know what, I like to lecture about the material first and then have my students go off and learn it, you can move the slides to the top of the lesson. All of this is adjustable, orderable, and I think, as Don mentioned early on, the goal is to allow the courseware to adapt to your syllabus and teaching style rather than the other way around. So with that, let me open it up to questions. Don, I think you were tracking questions to see if anything was coming through, and I'm now happy to take any questions or deep dive into any particular areas that people might be interested in.
Sounds good, Derek. We do have just one question so far. I would remind all attendees that you may submit questions in the question feature. Simply type it out and submit it, and we will cover it. The only question we currently have comes from Donna, and Donna writes, "Thank you for showing us this tool. It seems very easy. My question is, what does this tool cost for my students? What does it cost for me?" Derek, if I can, I'd like to field this question. So really great question, Donna. Normally, this platform would cost $35 to your students. However, we are coming to market, again, it's brand new yet proven. We are coming to market with a great introductory offer, $29 for students. Now, the great thing about that offer is that if you adopt the platform for your course and continue to do so, that $29 offer will be locked in for you. So if you renew a year later, it'll still be $29 for your students. That introductory offer will stay with you. The other great thing, the second part of your question, what does this cost for me as an instructor? The answer is zero. Completely free to the instructor when you adopt it for your course. Great question, Donna.
Yeah, Don, if I could add, after this webinar, obviously you'll all be receiving emails from us, and there'll be a link in there. You can sign up and you can get access to your own course. As Don mentioned, it's totally free to instructors, and you can have access to the complete course, and you can play around with the material as you like, and you can review the material as you like. All of the courses are ready to be adopted. They've been in market for a number of years. They continue to go through refinement and have been refined for this spring term, but are available to you right now.
We do have another question. This question comes from Lindsay. How do you work with bookstores to set this up?
Yep. So that's a great question. So we work with bookstores and instructors very simply. So when you adopt this, you will get obviously your own course, and you can set up student access either through your LMS, as I showed, or have students register directly. And students will then register into your course. Students will then be presented with a payment window. The payment window, just a word on that, is that it is also dismissible for several days. So we know that students, that day one access, that day one, gee, I'm not sure if I'm actually going to keep this course, or I'm going to drop it, or gee, I'm not going to pay for it right away, which then means I'm not going to know this stuff in the first week. Students can dismiss that pay window. The pay window will allow them to either pay with a credit card, which they can do directly, or we can work with your bookstores to sell course codes. So a student could go to the bookstore and provision a course code, a redemption code, and in that same window, they'll have the option to either enter a credit card or enter that 16-digit redemption code, which will then give them access to the course.
And we do have another question. This one is submitted by John. What type of assistance and support do you offer for technical support, and how do I access it?
Mm-hmm. So if you're an instructor, there are a number of self-service guides. So if you're the person that says, you know what, I just want to take a look at that document, I want to figure out how to edit, I want to do all of these things, that's all available for you. If you want to chat with us, there is that assist button as soon as you get access to the course on the upper right. You click that and you'll be connected to us. If it's something simple, we can give you specific instructions on here's how you turn on edit mode, or here's how you reorder things. If it's something more in depth, we can set up a greater session to actually walk you through some of those features. If you're looking for help just setting up the course and saying, you know what, I want to set this up once, I want to reorder a few things, I want to take out all the discussion boards, I need a little help scheduling things, now we can provide assistance there as well. The tool is very user-friendly, and most instructors, once they see it, they're like, oh, no, I get it, I'm good, I don't need the help. But if you'd like help setting the course up, we're more than happy to provide that service.
Great. Another question was submitted, this one anonymously. During this pandemic, are you considering an institution fee instead of a per student fee? Unfortunately, some students are not able to afford the $29 discounted cost, in particular during the pandemic.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'll answer on the institutional sales side. From an access side, we can set this up to be an institutional sale model where if you said, you know what, the institution just wants to purchase X number of seats, or the institution wants to purchase course codes, we can do that quite simply, and we have done that before. In terms of how that's actually worked out, and John, if I'm speaking for you here, I'd say it's probably something that we would take offline and work out on a one-off basis.
Absolutely.
I think the thing that we've, when we started this and we started working with OER, the goal was to help students get access to very good quality material that will help them affordably. And that's why we focus on OER, it's why we work with OpenStax. And we do understand those affordability issues. And when they rear their ugly head in specific circumstances where even at a $29 fee, students can't afford it, we're going to do what we can to make sure that students get through and get access to the material and pass the course.
Patricia writes, not a question, more of a comment, just very simply, thank you. We appreciate that, Patricia. I think I would turn around and say thank you for allowing us the opportunity to show it to you. Those are all the questions that we have at the moment. Like I said at the start, any questions that might be submitted after the fact, we will definitely follow up with you individually to answer. On top of that, this webinar was recorded, and we will provide a link to that recording for you so you can go back and reference any of the materials that we went over, and hopefully share this with some of your colleagues as well. On your screen, you should be seeing my contact information, dyao@xanedu.com, and my telephone number is there as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to use that information, and we will get back to you very quickly. We have 1 minute left, but no more questions, so I think this is a good stopping point. So I would say on behalf of Derek, on behalf of everybody at XanEdu, we appreciate you taking this time to look into FlexEd, and we will follow up with you in the very near future. Thank you.